Hello and welcome back to another episode of More Than a Business Live. I am your host, Mitch Case. I am also the co-founder of my wife and I's company, More Than a Meal, where we help organizations strengthen their most valued relationships by showing gratitude and appreciation one meal at a time. The reason we started this show was to really give the opportunity to highlight individuals and organizations that truly go above and beyond and have created an organization that is truly more than a business. And that can look like a ton of different scenarios, and each and every one of our guests brings new ideas, new strategies, new views and perspectives to what truly can make an organization more than a business. And it's been truly a joy for me to have the opportunity to talk to these amazing leaders inside of Kansas City and outside of Kansas City. So I'm incredibly grateful for our next guest. But before I bring her on, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, True Captive. If you haven't heard of True Captive, I'd go over and check out their website. But they believe in healthcare that is personal and insurance that isn't complicated. So go on over to truecaptive.com. You can take a look at that. If you can't get a hold of them there, I'd be happy to get you introduced if you want to learn more about their unique captive program. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guest in just a second as I get to do a quick introduction for Karen. Karen is the president at DMC Services, which I'm excited to talk about because I lived in that world for about 10 years. But she is just a beacon of excellence within the commercial HVAC space and the plumbing sectors here in the Kansas City area. Beyond that, she is deeply rooted in community service, which we will definitely talk about. Starting a nonprofit called Strong Homes, Strong Families, which provide home repairs for at-risk homeowners and truly just demonstrates her commitment to the community. And last but not least, like she is running for a public office for Congress in the state of Kansas, which I can imagine is probably one of the most vulnerable things you can do as an individual, to put your thoughts and ideas out there. And we're going to dive into a little bit of why she wants to do some of these types of things. But I am incredibly grateful to have Karen on the show. So Karen, welcome to the show. I am so excited to just dive in with you here. So if you will, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do within DMC Services, and then we'll get to all the other extracurricular activities.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for such a kind and generous introduction. I, as you said, am the president. My official title is Chief Handshaker. And yes. I have been the primary owner of DMC for 14 years and the sole owner for 9 years. And 14 years ago when I started out, wore many of the hats in the company, including answering the phones. I mean, we joke about where we started and where we've come to. Now my role is a lot more admin and managing the managers. Thankfully, that allows me to do things like run for Congress. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And we do commercial service. So I tell people we're fixers, not builders. And that means that we make all of our money one broken toilet and HVAC system at a time. And we're celebrating our 20-year anniversary here in business this year. So it's an exciting year, and I'm really proud of what we have accomplished.
Congratulations on 20 years. That is definitely an amazing feat, but kudos to you for the hard work that you've done to get to that moment. And one of my experiences, I will always remember these words from a contractor I worked with in the HVAC space. There was one component that I always worked on. So this is the service side. There was this idea that this HVAC component, it was like a tube of toothpaste. You can always get a little bit more out of it if you just kind of do a few repairs and services. And that was like his whole motto for his company was, we're just going to maintain these things and get as much out of it as we can versus just go and build a new one because it's not shiny anymore. So I just have always remembered that word. It's like a roll of toothpaste and drives me nuts, but also at the same time totally makes sense. So let's dive in with an impact story here that we always kind of start the show off. And actually, I do want to actually say, if anybody is tuning in live, shoot into the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, what city you're at. And if you have any questions for myself or Karen as we kind of go through this show, shoot them in that comments and we will make sure to try and get those answered and give you guys some shout outs throughout the show. So with that, Karen, let's go ahead and dive into that impact story. So Tell us about a personal story or a story that either you personally, whether you're maybe your nonprofit or even DMC Services, has had a direct impact on a team member or community member here in the Kansas City area.
Yeah, well, I would like to believe that we've had a big impact in a small way. You know, we're a small but mighty company. We've grown to 20 employees, and one of the things what precipitated me going on and co-founding Strong Home, Strong Families was a scenario that we came across several years ago early on when I was majority owner. I hadn't bought the founder out yet. And it was, Christmas time. And one of my technicians, I sent him out on a residential call. And I always tell people, we do residential. We just market ourselves as a commercial service company. So I never turn away residential business. And somebody had called us and they didn't have any heat. And my tech got there and it was a young family. They had a new baby. Their heater was broken. And I remember my tech going out to his van, and this is oftentimes what they're doing. Audience, when a technician leaves your home and goes to a van, he's calling someone.
Making a phone call.
Yeah, he's phoning a friend. And I got the phone call, and this gentleman that was working for me was like, listen, they don't want to do the repair because they can't afford it. So they're going to go to Home Depot and get some space heaters. And I sat there and I thought about it and I was like, well, what are we talking about? Is it thousands? He's like, no, it's like $350. And my heart just broke because it really resonated with me. One, I took a moment to thank God for all of the blessings that he's bestowed upon me and my family.
Amen.
And then two, I told the tech, just tell them that we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it and it's on us, and, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. And that story has stuck with me for years. And that is sorry, my dog was just went crazy.
It's live. I love the live show because this is not the first time we've had interruptions. I love it.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. And Rosie and Reggie just let their presence known. But it stuck with me, and it's what really planted the seed for me to go on and found Strong Home, Strong Families. And, back in 2019, I founded the nonprofit, and then the pandemic happened. And there was a pretty heavy load at that time that I was carrying between running the business and, doing all the things that we all did as business owners to keep the doors open and keep our employees employed and manage all of the craziness. But I was also at that time board president of a very large and significant women's organization in town called the Junior League of Kansas City, Missouri. And I had my stepdaughter at home trying to do virtual learning. So we had a lot going on, and I pressed pause on Strong Home, Strong Families. And then in 2021/2 picked it back up, and we've started doing projects. And I love the stories of the families that we've helped thus far. It just gives me so much joy and gratefulness to be able to give back to the community and affect people's lives in a positive manner.
As you were just kind of talking, I've had this, the word empathy has been coming up a lot in conversations with, for me personally over the last couple of weeks, and what that looks like in the workplace. And quite honestly, as I'm sitting here listening to your story, you've created a nonprofit that can go out and serve amazing people due to the empathy, which is just your gut instinct, intuition of, I'm going to put myself in this person's shoes, and that's a terrible situation. They've got young kids, and I'm just going to do what's right. And I mean, that just continues to show up day in and day out with these amazing leaders, and the way that empathy just oozes through these organizations. And then that does start from the top, honestly. So I just want to say, I haven't been a recipient on that end or anything along those lines, but just knowing that there are other good people out in Kansas City helping those that are less fortunate or handed a bad hand right now, and just being able to pick them up, because you never know what kind of little $350 repair to an HVAC system could have had on that person showing up to work the next day, being a more positive, bright, empathetic person, because somebody, who knows, maybe they paid it forward in a way with their hands and skills that they have to go and serve somebody else. So Thank you for sharing that story, Karen. I really, really do think the work that you're doing outside of the HVAC and plumbing and that work specifically is just speaks volumes of who you are as a leader. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Let's transition more into let's specifically talk DMC services and this idea of like having an organization that is more than a business and some of the things like maybe I just stole some of your thunder a little bit just talking about the empathy that you lead with, but what do you feel has like truly created DMC services to be more than a business, more than an HVAC repair company and plumbing repair company? Like what is it that truly has created that for you?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, 9 years ago, I bought the founder out. And at that time, there was a lot of, personal transition within the business. And I was at a crossroads. We could have just sold the company for parts and gone our separate ways. But there was something that kept kind of resonate, like coming back up over and over again. And that was in the 5-ish years that I had been in the trades. One reoccurring theme I saw was that, and this is a broad brush, so companies out there that have an extraordinary culture and do a great job, I'm not talking about you. But what I observed was a lot of companies in the trades that didn't necessarily have the best culture. They still had that old school mentality that, hey, I was beat up and, made fun of, and I was treated as the low man on the totem pole when I was coming up through apprentice and working my way up. And, now it's my turn to treat somebody else like they're the apprentice and, not with respect and that we all deserve as humans. I also saw a lot of companies that didn't put their employees first. I would talk to guys even in the interview process and they would say, oh, no. When we're on call, we work from 7 to 7 and we have to take all the calls and they keep scheduling us and then we get trouble calls. And I was like, wow, like that's intense, right? Like when do you live your life? And a lot of guys couldn't really answer that. And I kept thinking, and I would ask other business owners in the trades, I would say, hey, do you have a mission? Do you have a vision? What are your values? And as you can imagine, the response was pretty puzzling to them. They're like, what are you talking about? Like plumbers and HVAC technicians, they don't care about that stuff. They care about paychecks. They care about hours. And, I sat with that for a while. And I decided that I wanted to prove them wrong. I wanted to prove to the world, and especially to my industry, that plumbers and HVAC technicians, electricians, carpenters, all of them, they want a sense of purpose. They want to feel pride in what they do. I mean, when your AC doesn't work and it's 100 degrees out, your AC guy or girl is your hero. Right? When your sewer line is breaking, backing up into your house or your business, your plumber is, a godsend. And so I decided to take a chance on myself and buy the founder out of his remaining shares and set out to build a company that really was rooted in, had core values, had a strong mission, built a team mentality. And, 9 years later, one of the things that gives me the most joy and that I'm most proud of all the things that I've been able to accomplish is that I feel like we're there. I have an extraordinary team. It's mild and beautiful and sunny out right now, but earlier this month, like we had days where, a guy was on call and we usually have one, with our business, we only need like one technician on the HVAC side and one technician on the plumbing side to be on call on a weekend because it's not our business mix to be super busy on the weekends. And we were being hammered and other guys were calling the guy who's on call, how you doing? Can we help out? And so the whole team like rallied around each other. And it was just, I was out of town at the time. And when I got back and I was like, hey, how'd things go? And I heard these stories, it literally was so humbling. And it was such a moment of pride because I felt like, wow, the people who work for me really get it. They understand, no man left behind. We're going to do this together. And, it feels really good. And now we're at a point where we're attracting employees because they're starting to hear, how we do things, things like I have a guy who's coaches his son's football team and he wants off a little early, 2 nights a week so that he can go do that. We work that out in the schedule. When one of my technicians wants to walk his, kid to kindergarten the first day, which oftentimes you don't get to do because you're already on the job, we arrange a late start and it's awesome.
I like the smile and just like the beam coming off of you you talked about pride and like I'm saying a thing like how validating is that you took this leap, proving others wrong, that it's not just throw some dirt on it, don't complain to me, make sure you're getting your hours in mentality to, hey, we're going to make sure that you're able to be there for kindergarten, first day of kindergarten, or coaching those teams, because ultimately like the reason that we work is not to, it's to put food on the plates for our family, take care of our family, take care of our loved ones, not to necessarily just fix pipes and weld pipes. So one of the things that you said through there is like you're now starting to have like people attracted to your organization in a sense. And I think that will also happen from a client perspective too, if it isn't already happening. But the fact that you had individuals that didn't need to be on call, but stepped up because they knew they were going to be taken care of one way or another. They stepped up because they truly cared and showed empathy for their other team members that were being inundated with things on their turn to be on call. And you didn't even have to say anything. Like that was giving me chills as you were talking, because it's really, really amazing when I hear about organizations that have like these pillars and these actions, and it just comes to life. It's so amazing. And I'm just like up on this high pedestal right now, just excited for you and the hard work. Cause I know that didn't just happen overnight. And I know it wasn't easy by any means, but like you said, you made it and it's there. And, now you have to maintain it. But at the same time, like that is such an amazing accomplishment that I think so many business owners start off with this idea of creating this thing that's going to be flourishing and amazing, and both financially and purpose driven. And now, like, yes, you're fixing toilets and HVAC systems, but you're allowing fathers to be present for their kids, and potentially mothers and women in the workforce being present in moments where maybe they don't feel supported when having to go and drop off a child at school or have a child at home because they're sick again. Who's going to stay home? So all right. I am so fired up from this conversation already. I love to hear the work from an industry that I was in for 10 plus years and oftentimes didn't feel the same way that you feel towards your team. So with that, we are moving right along. I don't want us to run out of time because I want opportunities to allow you to talk about how this public service has driven you to the point of running for public office. And as I kind of mentioned, we're not going to be a political platform by any means, but I just love when you have these individuals that are willing to put their beliefs, their time, their effort, their money into something that they truly believe in, that's always going to be intended for the betterment of our city, state, country. So usually the last question I ask is like, what continues to motivate you to show up every single day, even when the days are tough and hard? What continues to motivate you to show up? And I do kind of want to ask that question in a sense, but what continues to motivate you to continue to run for public office when it just doesn't feel great every single day, or you get knocked down, or you get picked up, like whatever that looks like? What continues to motivate you to continue to show up and pursue this desire to run for office?
So I am going to answer that. I'm not going to be, I tell people I'm not a politician, but there's a more important answer that I have for you as to why would I even run for public office. And then I'll finish by answering your question because I'm not a question dodger. And the reason why I'm doing this is because all we have to do is turn on our cable news and we see how broken things are in Washington, D.C. As a small business owner, especially one in the trades, I've experienced firsthand, up close and personal, how confusing and complicated and frankly speaking, frustrating our federal government is with regulations that, are so burdensome or just don't make sense. How things that could be very simplified and streamlined are, made a tangled bag of cords like you have in your basement. You just try to like
I don't know
work
what you mean.
through. Yeah, nobody has that. I have a whole box. Mine isn't even a bag. And and for years, I would ask, why isn't there anyone with small business experience in Washington, D.C., who can help like frame these conversations so that when they're making decisions, they're making them also from the standpoint of the, millions of small business owners out there that, are trying to, that are really the backbone of our economy. And then about 5 years ago, I stopped asking, why isn't there someone there? And I thought, well, maybe this is the direction I need to go to. And so I scaled my company and, got some personal things in order, rolled off some boards and things like that, and started to dig into the political field. And I'm not doing this to go to DC to get rich or do insider trading. I'm not doing this because I think it's super cool or easy. This is legitimately the hardest thing I've ever done. But what keeps me going is the belief that one person can make a difference, and we desperately need change in Washington, D.C. And so I'm going to keep picking myself up. There are scars and stars, as somebody said to me earlier.
I like that.
But I'm going to keep picking myself up because I do believe that my message and me as a candidate who has proven that I problem solve effectively through founding my nonprofit, who has proven that I truly care about our community through the literally hundreds, if not thousands of hours of community service that I've done, that I understand how to not just make a budget, how to cut budgets, how to stick to budgets. Let's all like 3 novel ideas for our members of Congress that we need somebody like me. And so I'm going to keep going. And I do think that message is resonating with the voters here in Kansas City, because our Kansas City area, Kansas City, Kansas. So my district is on the Kansas side. So I say Kansas City is the metro, right? But I think it's really important. It's important. I'm going to keep running at it, and I'm going to keep working as hard as I have been to convince people that there is hope.
I know we had a conversation around this before we even jumped on the show in our initial phone call, and we just kind of talked, whatever political views that anybody does actually have, it seems like everybody wants the same result. We just have different ways of going about getting to this ultimately end result. And I'm like tying this back to the business side. And as you're kind of talking, like, I know through your interview process for your team members, not what party do you vote for? Where are you at on this line? You're caring for them as an there might be some HR situation that pop up from that, but as you were talking and caring for these individuals, it was the dad, it was the mom, it was the individual that you're caring for, no matter what views they have. So this overarching goal of, like you just said, like, I want to give people hope. I want to be the one to come in and make a difference. If you don't see change happening, if you're just sitting, it will never happen. So go ahead and take action. And it just exudes, and I just see it going from your business acumen to running for office, in the sense of caring for individuals at its root, core, whatever you want to call it, is we want to make sure that people are taken care of in a way that is meaningful and purposeful for them. And it just continues to show. And I know without a doubt, like, you are going to make amazing impacts on the individuals that you get to have conversations with as you are running for office. And the voters will ultimately decide what that looks like for you in the future. But I am so grateful and appreciative of you to take the time to come on this show and talk about the strategies, the lessons, the success that you've had. It's nice to see, like, there is success at the end of these things when you do hard work, because sometimes we don't always get to see that. And just definitely appreciate that. So we're really kind of coming up at the end of the show right now. So one of the things that my wife and I always like to do, just to truly show our gratitude and appreciation for you coming on the show, is actually allow you to send a meal to somebody that you believe is deserving, whether it's time to celebrate, or maybe they're going through a challenging time. So With as much or as little information you want to share about that individual, do you have somebody in mind that you'd like to gift this meal to, and why?
I do. And what I appreciate, hopefully the person that I pick, it resonates with you because, first of all, her name is Joni Moreland. She is an Olathe resident, and she founded a nonprofit called the Starfish Foundation with the whole idea that you keep paying it forward. And she recently lost a very dear person to her. And, I love what she does. The Starfish Foundation has a headquarters in Olathe that they are busting at the seams. And, I think every other Saturday or every Saturday, people can just come in and get whatever they need. And oftentimes it's food, and they collect food from all of these different places. And then folks who can't afford to buy groceries can go there and shop. And I volunteered back in November on one of their Saturdays. And it was just such an extraordinary experience. And what she has done has really created a ripple effect in the community. And it's such an honor to say that I know her and that I knew her when she started this. And, especially since she's going through a time of grief, I think no better person to gift the meal to. So thank you for doing what you do.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And selfishly, I get a lot of joy being able to provide a meal to somebody that has such a larger impact in our community as well. So we'll touch base after the episode ends here on making sure that we can get that to Joni. But I'd heard of the is it Starfish Foundation?
Starfish. Yeah,
Starfish Foundation. I didn't realize exactly what they did, so I appreciate you sharing that as well. So I'll definitely be going to check them out. Real quick, kind of to wrap this up, Karen, if anybody has questions about the things that you implemented to create such a positive culture within DMC Services, want to know more about the next place you're showing up to talk about your core values and what you want to see changed in the state of Kansas, how can they best get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm accessible and available. That's one of the things that, God willing, when I win an election, I want the citizens of Kansas to know that I'm here for you and that I want to listen. There are a couple different ways to reach me. One, through our website. So I have two websites. DMC Service Inc. is my business website. There's a contact us form there. You can get a hold of me there. You can call the office and say you heard and you want to talk. I don't answer the phones anymore, but somebody will get me the message. And I also have a campaign website. If you want to check out my platform, what I stand for, it's KC for Kansas.com, and 4 is spelled out. And you can send me a message through there as well. But, Mitch, thank you for having me today and allowing me to share a tiny bit of my story and what I'm working on.
Awesome. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I'm going to just kind of wrap this up real quick, but before I do that, Karen, when do we need to go to the polls to vote? When is the day for voting?
I'm so glad you asked. The primaries in Kansas for my race. So we have a presidential primary that moved up and is in March. My race is August 6th. So I do have a primary. And love anybody to go out. Kansas does have a closed primary system. So I am in the Republican race. And so if you're a registered Republican, or if you want to switch your registration so you can vote for me, I'll take all the votes I can get. And then our general election is November 5th.
Yes. Well, I just want to encourage anybody, just with our right and duty within the U.S., to continue to vote in local, state, regional, national levels, because it is one, it's very gratifying to know that you've exercised your right in that way, but two, it is one of the best ways that you can make change within this country for what you believe in. So Karen, thank you so much for putting yourself out there in that way. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and everybody tuning in. I just want to encourage you to continue to strengthen those most valued relationships in your personal life and in your business. So with that, we'll be out of here, and we'll see you next week. Bye.